Hi, my name's David Warwick, and I played Josie's brother. He didn't even have a character name. I don't know what his name was. Josie's brother in the first series, episode 6 of London's Burning. My agent at the time, this is 1988, was a woman called Carol James. And Carol also looked after an actor called James Marcus, Jimmy Marcus, who played, I think, the chief fire guy at the fire station where London's Burning is set. So he was a regular character. So there's often a connection, Carol would have been given the casting breakdown and then made suggestions. I was also lucky that the director of this episode, Les Blair, I had worked with him, God, 14 years beforehand in 1974. So he knew me, although there'd been a 14-year gap. But at least he knew I could do the work. He and I did the first ever script written by Alan Bleasdale in a series called Second City Firsts. It was new writing by first-time writers out of Birmingham, and Alan Bleasdale had put forward this script called Early to Bed, which was about an 18-year-old boy just about to leave home, go off to college, and he was doing naughty things with the next door neighbour's wife, played by Alison Steadman. So that's how I knew Les Blair. As far as I can remember, I was only in the one scene, which was a family party. It was a Christmas party. And I've recently watched the episode just to remind myself, because it was 36 years ago. And I'm sitting at a piano with a young boy on my knee, and he's playing the piano. And I do remember, I come from Crewe in Cheshire. So my natural accent is like that. It's flat vowels and ringing G's and things. So my worst accent is London. So I felt quite intimidated being amongst all these other Londoners who had a natural accent. So I did have to practice, my lines, but my London accent isn't exactly my best. So I was slightly perturbed by that, but I think I got away with it. And I enjoyed doing the scene, and everybody was very friendly. But I don't have a huge memory of it. I'm just a jobbing actor. In the same way that directors are jobbing directors, writers are jobbing writers, and you go from place to place, from series to series, and do a little bit here and a little bit there, and it all gets mixed up in the general melee of your career. Yeah, I obviously met Catherine playing my sister on the day, and she was very welcoming. And looking again at the episode now, I can see there is, a slight, shall we say, facial resemblance between me and her, and also the actor who was playing our father. So I imagine that was one of the reasons that I got cast. So they're matching a family resemblance. She was a very nice woman and very welcoming, from what I remember. Filming for a TV thing normally works out that you're only there for the scenes for which you're required. And these scenes all took place in a suburban house, I think somewhere in southeast London. I'm really not quite sure about that because 36 years ago the memory fades. But normally you get a car and it takes you to the location. You say hello, you do the filming, and then you walk away from it, and you forget it basically, uh, and you go on to the next job. So I wasn't aware of any other filming that was taking place at the time. Unbeknownst to me, a friend of mine who's become a friend since, Paddy Navin, was in the same episode, but at the time I had no idea she was in it. The filming location was, as I say, this house, somebody's house in southeast London. And what tends to happen, the location manager will go round, recce locations, find a suitable house, find somebody who's prepared to let an entire film crew into their house, because it is very disruptive. But often the money helps the rental that they pay, the hiring fee. So it was just one suburban house in some street in southeast London where we filmed it. There were no studio scenes for my bits anyway. I've got a feeling that's probably the case for most of London's Burning. Watching the episodes now, lots and lots of film locations. I'd known the director, Les Blair, since 1974 when I auditioned for him up in Birmingham for a new TV play, a half-hour TV play that was being put up by the BBC in the second City Firsts series. And he was, what I know about him, he produced Mike Leigh's first ever film. And Mike Leigh works in an improvisational way. There's often not even a script. And the actors come up with the lines, and Mike Leigh assembles it into a shootable script eventually, like Abigail's Party. Well, Les, to a certain extent, works in the same way. He likes people to immerse themselves in their characters as much as possible. So the first job I did with him was very much like that. We went up to Lee in Lancashire. We spent, Alison Steadman and I, and the woman, the actress playing my mother, spent a week improvising all the scenes in and around the script so that we knew intimately our characters. And Les sort of expected that same level of immersion for the characters that we were playing. It was only a day's filming, and there was a limited amount of research that you could do for that. But he's a very good and very practiced director, does his homework, comes up with the goods. I don't remember meeting Tony Hoare, the series writer, who wrote that particular episode. He may well have been there on the day, but by and large, as a jobbing actor, you go in, you focus on what your job is, and you don't bother about everybody else's. I used to make that mistake early on as an actor. I would want to do everybody else's job, making suggestions, until somebody slapped me down and said, no, no, just get on with what your job is. I'm always amazed when I look at a cast list or a shooting list, the credits at the end of a film, and there's masses of people listed, but they've all got one job to do, but they don't do it at the same time. It always looks like there's a lot of standing around. Everybody's got a job, but you can't all do it at the same time. So, as an actor, you try and stay focused on your job, basically. And you might say hello to a few other people, but unless you have a problem with the script or want to discuss something, then you normally don't get to meet the writer. Uh, there's always makeup on set, of course, so very little to be done. There might have been a back room somewhere you get a base put on, maybe a little bit of eyeliner or something like that, and then you're thrown into the scene. And only during the filming, as you sweat under the lights, the makeup lady during a break in filming will come up and do a bit of pampering, a bit of powdering, and take the sweat off, take the sheen off your look, and then step out of it and you do a bit more. Costume wise, you just wear what you're given, basically. I think I had some rather generic beige trousers under top, so nothing that stands out in the crowd, as it were. I don't think I've got a single witty anecdote about working on London's Burning, apart from the fact I don't have any awful memories. Therefore, it must have been a pleasant experience. But it was a busy year that year. I think I might have done a couple of things on television. I know we did a couple of commercials. I did one for. I made a note of them actually because I keep a chronological CV going of what I've done each year. And that year I did a commercial for Adams Children's Clothes. I did one for British Gas, and I did corporate videos for OMAC, which is a computer firm. Mecca Bingo, I think we did a couple of recruitment films for Mecca Bingo. I did one for the Department of Education and Science, one for the NHS. I did a promotional film for British Airways for recruitment for cabin staff. I did a corporate film for Canon Films, for Volkswagen, and for Volvo. So I can't remember much about any of them really, apart from the British Airways film, because that was an anecdote. We went out to Heathrow to film this recruitment film on a 747 that was going to be free. And when we got there was no 747 because a plane had broken down in Singapore. So this spare aircraft had to fly out to replace the broken down one. So we're sitting around at Heathrow Airport, twiddling our thumbs, not knowing what to do. And then somebody said, "Oh, there's a plane available at Gatwick." So the whole circus and a film crew is a circus. Moved to Gatwick to film. So I have memories of that because of the hiccup in filming. But with London's Burning, no hiccups at all. I know many of my friends, people that I know quite well, have all been interviewed in the past for this particular fans website. David Streams, you've interviewed David Streams, who I've worked with a couple of times. I've directed him. I took him out to Vienna with a play, and I took him out to Singapore and Kuala Lumpur with another play. So he's a great mate. You've interviewed Paddy Navin, who I also took out to Singapore with a play. You've interviewed Mike Fenner. Now, Mike and I have worked together several times in the West End on Ray Cooney farces, and he's a great mate and a very good actor. Jim Barclay, you've interviewed Jim Barclay. He and I did a play together at Hornchurch many years ago, a play called Having a Ball by Willie Russell. You've interviewed Edward Peel, and Ed is another mate. He's a good friend of some other friends who are all at Rose Bruford College together, so I know Eddie very well. And you've also interviewed Ursula Mohan. And Ursula and I were in the second tour of Dad's Army. The first tour was all male. In the second tour, there were too many female parts to have men dressing up in drag again. So they got 3 or 4 actresses in, and Ursula was one of those. And I noticed in my particular episode, there were a couple of actors that I know. Henry Goodman was in this particular episode as well. And Henry and I were at RADA together. He was the term after me. And I also spotted a man who's now a very famous comedian, Arthur Smith, playing a police sergeant when somebody's in one of the cells. It's quite amazing that all these faces suddenly appear in London's Burning. London's Burning was very lucky having such good actors working for it. Personally, work-wise at the moment, I've got nothing on the blocks, but then I am of an age where I should have retired 10 years ago, but actors don't retire. And then hopefully we just die on stage if anybody can possibly organise that for us. I've nothing coming up. I spend most of my time on holiday nowadays, which is not a bad way to go. Oh, I know, it's been an absolute pleasure actually. It's good it's been very nice walking down memory lane, remembering things. I mean, this was 1988, so 36 years ago. It was a one day's work, and it's amazing how they crop up. I get most of my repeat feeds nowadays from things like, oh, Doctor Who. I did 4 episodes of Doctor Who, Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin, The Prince of Denmark, which is a series I made with Ronnie Corbett years ago. Only Fools and Horses is another money spinner for me. Keeping Up Appearances. It's amazing how, God, 50 or very nearly 50, 40 years ago, one did all this work, mainly at the BBC, and you just got the feel, you walked away, and 40 years on, one's still earning money for it. Thank goodness for the BBC and repeat fees.